love chapter in the Bible, 1 Corinthians 13. And if I have all prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all the faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions and hand over my body so that I may boast, but I do not have love, I gain nothing. The gospel reading today is a follow-up from the one last week where Jesus came into the temple in Nazareth and began to speak to them. And they were so amazed at the words that he spoke. And the next thing you knew, they dragged him to the edge of the town and they were ready to throw him off the cliff. They were angry at his words. They didn't understand the words that he was speaking. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my pet peeves in the Christian church, and that is excommunication or shunning. They weren't going to excommunicate Jesus. They wanted to go one step further and just get rid of him. When I was in high school, one of my classes in religion, I went to a Lutheran high school, all-boys high school in Milwaukee. And one of the tasks was to create a family tree and to write your story. And I had heard about my family history, and I was very proud of it. My family started the first Lutheran church in Wisconsin in 1835, I believe, in Freistadt, Wisconsin, Trinity Lutheran Church. And also, ironically, Carol's family started the first Lutheran church in Saskatchewan at St. John's in Edenwald. How many people can say that, eh? Not too many. Anyway, I digress. Let's go forward. Anyway, so I did the family history, and it was very interesting. The pastors in those days, they had to bring them over from Germany. They had to have a German-speaking pastor because most of the congregation spoke German. And when I looked through the minutes of the congregation, I forget, in 1840 or 1843, the new pastor came from Germany, and he had his way of doing things. And apparently the council did not agree with him, so he excommunicated 2/3 of the church council. And I looked through the names, and almost all of those names were family members of mine going back all of those years. So here I thought I had a very proud history that I wanted to share, and my family got excommunicated. I guess they got rid of the pastor, and the next pastor brought them back in. Can you imagine? I've been a pastor for almost 44 years. I've never excommunicated anybody. Anybody want to take me up on that? That would be a shame. No, I'm kidding. I can't imagine for the life of me. But this is a big deal. When I went to school, elementary school, a Lutheran elementary school, they talked about, what is it, Matthew 18? Where it talks about how to get rid of people. We can't talk about how to get rid of people. We have to talk about how to get more people in. But those were the days. Those were the days. When the law was the law, the letter of the law was the letter of the law. And the only way that we knew how to deal with people was to, you follow the law, if not, we will kick you out. And unfortunately, the Lutheran Church has their sad history, but every church that I know of has a similar sad history. And some of the churches are still practicing this practice of shunning. And to me, there is nothing Christian about shunning. Shunning is where you not only kick people out of your church community, you're no longer supposed to talk to them or to have any kind of contact with them whatsoever. The Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mennonites, other fundamentalist religions, most of them practice shunning today. And it's time for this practice to quit. What does it say in 1 Corinthians chapter 13? You can do all the greatest deeds in the world. You can even give up your body to be burned. But if you have no love, you are nothing. This is not how we resolve conflict and problems. The law, it's easier to resolve conflict with the law. My dad was a great guy. He was an awesome dad. But he ruled the roost. And it was his way or the highway. And he also said, when I was the one who argued with him. Okay, my brother and sister, they just nodded. They didn't agree with him, but they kept their mouth shut. I was one of those guys who couldn't do that. So I'd ask him why. He says, don't do as I do, do as I say. And that was the law. This is not the way for us to remain together in community. Not through the law, it is through love. Faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. Canada is facing a crisis, as most countries are, but we're facing issues and problems. Yesterday, I got caught in traffic. Okay, I gotta get my blood pressure down before I keep going, okay? I got caught in traffic 3 times over something that I terribly disagree with, but I tried to keep my cool and go around the traffic. But this is the problem that we face in Canada. We have a divided country, and we do not continue going forward by the letter of the law and make more and more laws to divide us further and further. We have to find ways for us to live together in peace and in harmony. And the same with all of our families. We need to find ways for us to live together. The old way doesn't work anymore. Okay, the way that you were raised, where the letter of the law and the father was the boss, and whatever he said, you had to do. That doesn't work anymore. But Jesus has given us a profound way to stay together, and that is the gift of love. I read a very powerful book this week by Miriam Taves. She was a Mennonite lady from Steinbach, Manitoba. She's written about 6 novels. This was called A Complicated Kindness. And I think there's 13 Mennonite churches in Steinbach, Manitoba. Okay? And there's so many different breakoffs. They have a very strict John Holdeman breakoff that was a part that happened maybe 100 years ago. But each branch is a little bit more conservative than the others. But she grew up in this atmosphere. And her family got caught up into being a little bit different. Her sister was very different, and her mom was very different. And they could no longer abide by the letter of the law that the Mennonite church had laid before her. And in this very powerful story, and the complicated kindness is that Mennonites are also very loving people. They're conscientious objectors. They're often the first people to go and to support whenever there's a natural disaster around the world. And they speak and pray for peace. But there's complicated kindness within their own family. And when people rebel, when people doubt, and when people no longer believe the way they're supposed to, they are kicked out and shunned. And when you are in a small community where the church has been your family, and half the church is your family, and you are kicked out, it means something more than you can ever imagine. Very powerful passage that she wrote at the end of her book that I want to read to you. Menno Simons was the one who started the Mennonite church in Russia, the German Russians, in the 1800s, I believe it was. And this is at the end of her book, after her mom decided she had to leave the community and leave the family because she was shunned and excommunicated. And she knew how hard it would be for her husband to no longer be able to worship with his family, and how he was expected to shun his wife. And the author said, I thought about Menno Simons and what kind of childhood he must have had to want to lead people into a barren place to wait out the rapture and block out all the world and make them really believe that looking straight through a person like she wasn't there, a person that they had loved like crazy all their lives, was the right thing to do. 100 years ago, 200 years ago, some of these things made sense. They don't make sense anymore. This is not the way for us to deal with one another. The law sets up structure, but it does not unite us together. And Canada has to find a way to bring all of us together, unite us as brothers and sisters, no matter where it is we live and what it is we believe. And for all the terrible things that the Christian church has done over the years, I offer a humble apology. And I have to believe it was often well-meaning people who did these hurtful things, but these were the wrong things. And it's time now for these things to stop.